poppy, baby, wash, I say. Now story, ash, now poppy, poppy. The more you look, the less you see. Now just the fizzy, ash.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that? It's not true. The video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that video showed the crosses that represent
what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there is no...
The fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Verify the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leadership?
Yamiche, what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated, and that's a ridiculous line of questioning.
Meeting with South Africa's president earlier this week. During that meeting, President Trump held up some printouts of news articles and images that he claimed were evidence of a genocide against white South Africans. Well, as Reuters reports, one of the images is actually from Reuters' video of a mass burial in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It does not depict dead white farmers in South Africa, as Mr. Trump and the White House claimed in front of the South African president and in front of journalists in the White House. For more now, let's go to CNN's Larry Maddow joining us from Nairobi in Kenya. This Congo confusion, Larry, how are people where you are reacting to it?
It is shocking to a lot of people because, as I said after that meeting, based on my own reporting in this region, and especially from 15 years in South Africa, a lot of what President Trump used to justify this persecution and murders of white farmers was just untrue. And this is another evidence. When I saw him hold up that picture, I thought it looked familiar. We now know, and Reuters is confirming, that this picture of body bags is not from South Africa. It's actually from the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's from a mass burial in Goma, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, on February 3rd. And the Reuters video journalist, Jafar Al-Katanti, who took that video, was surprised to see the president hold up that picture. It's a screen grab that links to a Reuters video from that day. It follows a big assault on that Goma city in the eastern DRC by rebels named the M23, and that was the effect. A lot of people were killed on that day and the days before, and this was a mass burial that was carried out by the International Committee of the Red Cross, and Reuters were the only news organization that were allowed in to film that. So this picture does not depict the deaths of white farmers in South Africa, as President Trump led President Ramaphosa to believe. And the wider question, and the South African foreign minister was on Amanpour last night, and he brought some statistics with him.
In the last 4 years, 225 farm attacks, 101 farm dwellers who are majority black, 55 farm owners who are majority white. So that is a period of 4 years, and that does not represent a genocide. But it is still unfortunate. It should not happen because any crime, it is a crime. And that's why the president then stated that we are dealing with a crime situation.
And that is the argument the South Africans are trying to make in the Oval Office. They have a crime problem, not a murder of farmers. In fact, farm murders, last year when we looked at it, 0.2% of the overall total pool, a small percentage.
Yeah, we've been here before. Donald Trump and his press folks using material out of context, so we can now add South Africa to the list. Larry Maddow, thank you so much for your reporting.
More on that contentious meeting between South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and President Trump from yesterday afternoon. You'll remember the White House played a video purporting to back up claims that Afrikaners in South Africa are victims of genocide. Mr. Trump showed a video of crosses lining the side of a road, claiming it was a burial site of murdered white farmers. It wasn't. Today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was pressed about the video by NBC reporter Yamiche El-Sendor.
With eminent domain privileges that governments take. If the government of Los Angeles wants to build a highway and it goes through someone's backyard, they have the ability to come in and say, we are going to expropriate this land at fair compensation. The idea that there's going to be no compensation has really been debunked in the current usage of that law. In South Africa, this has become a very contentious issue because a similar issue existed in Zimbabwe. And the Zimbabwean government has used it aggressively to expropriate land, specifically farming land, from white Zimbabweans without compensation. What exists in South Africa is not the same thing.
I want to back up a little bit, Joseph. I know that you've already touched on this, but just for the sake of clarity, was land redistribution a promise made to Black South Africans after apartheid?
Yeah, well, that has been one of the major debates about the settlement of the apartheid situation, and it hasn't been resolved. And so land has been an incredibly contentious issue that has been promised by various politicians and is still going on today. And anyone that's done a little bit of basic research into South Africa will know that upwards of 70% of the of land is still in white minority hands.
Obviously, there's nuance to the conversation over the land redistribution policy. I don't think there's much nuance to the debunked conspiracy theories of a white genocide taking place. But I do want to ask you about a popular phrase that I noticed on South African social media, which is this phrase that is, quote, kill the Boer, which refers specifically to white farmers. Isn't that a source for concern? Isn't that kind of something that would ring alarm bells, though?
Absolutely. I mean, there's nationalist rhetoric on all sides of the political spectrum. That phrase has become very popular from one specific party in South Africa, which is known as the Economic Freedom Fighters, a very far left party that is very interested in nationalization of state institutions and banks and all of these types of things, and probably expropriation without compensation in the way that the right wing dreams that it's actually happening. And they've popularized that phrase for their own political theater, right? Political theater exists on all sides. So I think that it is very concerning that people are using any form of nationalist, racist rhetoric.
And Joseph, there are a couple of figures that are really shaping the way that this narrative is playing out, both in South Africa and in the United States and the rest of the world, in different ways. Talking about Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. What can you tell us about the kind of upbringing that Elon Musk, Peter Thiel had growing up in South Africa that helped form their worldview and the way that they see South Africa today?
It's a really interesting question that I don't think gets enough attention, specifically in the U.S. press. Elon Musk is really the person to talk about in this situation. He was born in Pretoria. He was raised in South Africa, and his family eventually fled the country after the fall of apartheid. And that experience shaped deeply his understanding of how the economy works, and it also gave him a certain amount of privilege. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about his grandfather, who was a very kind of notorious anti-Semite in Canada, who eventually fled to South Africa to specifically be part of the apartheid regime, and his father, who's said very horrific racial comments in the media. Musk himself hasn't really gone into that territory, but what we do know is that he was raised in a situation of privilege that few people can understand in terms of how apartheid existed, right? I mean, he was raised as part of a minority that was governing over an extremely wealthy country that was keeping large portions of that country really in a dire situation simply because of the color of their skin. Peter Thiel, on the other hand, is a little different. He wasn't born in South Africa. He's not South African. He spent a good deal of his childhood in Johannesburg, and he's come out very explicitly in several books that he's written along with other South Africans, such as David Sachs, who's a very big and important person in the United States right now. And said that he thinks that apartheid, he's gone on record to say that apartheid was actually a sound economic structure, and that claims of its brutality and its criminal nature are in fact overblown.
And these are guys that are pretty influential. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, how do their worldviews influence the larger global agenda of right-wing conservative movements around the world?
I think that they have a very big role to play, especially Elon Musk. His comments about South Africa, his comments specifically about how the economy is structured now. He's been on record about bringing Starlink to South Africa, and he refuses because the government has a law that a certain number of Black South Africans must be part of any company structure. This is an example of everything that he is against. And so by saying that he lived here and that he had to leave, he has a certain, almost as if he was a foot soldier in some sort of war, a certain gravitas that he can say that he's experienced this, and he knows how bad things can get if he doesn't get his way, or if his vision of a kind of anti-woke, economic, libertarian kind of system.
Yes,